Hi everybody, my name is Samantha McCarthy and I am delighted to be bringing you our 7th video in our Clare Local Development Company Job Seeker video series, which is brought to you from the team who work on the Social Inclusion and Community Activation Programme. Today's video continues the theme of the interviews that we have been looking at for the last number of weeks. Today's video will look at the different types of interviews that you might be asked to attend. Next week we'll take that one step further and look at preparing you to get ready for those types of interviews. As always, our contact details are on the very last slide should you wish to speak to us to get further help and supports. We would be delighted to hear from you. You will also see the details of our website, which will give you access to further information about the supports that we offer here at Clare Local Development Company. We wish you all the best in your interview journey and look forward to hearing from you over the coming weeks and months.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's video on the different types of interviews that you may be invited to. The topics that I will cover today include firstly explaining what a screening interview is, then explaining what a panel interview is, describing video interviews, explaining the different assessments that you might be asked to complete, and finally going through any general top tips for the day of your interview. Quite often, there may be 2 interviews you have to complete for the one job. The first interview is usually called a screening interview. It's usually done over the phone, and the employer will use this interview to make sure that you meet the basic requirements for the job. You should prepare the same amount as if it was a face-to-face or a main interview. When you are going to take the interview, make sure you do so from a quiet room, but also make sure that that room has good coverage and that you have a glass of water to hand. Be mindful of the volume and tone of your voice and try to change the tone of your voice, as this will give the interviewer a glimpse of your personality and attitude, considering that they cannot see you or that you are not face-to-face in person. You may be invited to a panel interview after your first interview. A panel interview will have more than one interviewer. This type of interview is usually more detailed and will include more questions on your experience and competencies. If there is more than one interviewer, be sure to greet all interviewers, be that online or face-to-face. Always make eye contact with all interviewers, regardless of whether they are asking you the question or not. And just to be mindful, often one member of the interview panel will take notes on your answers. Don't be put off by this. It is quite normal for this to take place. And lastly, when the interview is finished, no more than you will greet all the interviewers, don't forget to thank all members of the panel, even if they did not ask you any interview questions. Video interviews are becoming more and more popular when going through an interview process today. With so many people working from home, interview processes are also taking place from home and online. Methods include video interviews via Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, which next week's video will explain in much more detail. They can also be an automated video interview, where you will have to answer pre-recorded questions which appear on your screen. Generally, there will be a time limit on this in which you can answer, and there will be no interviewer present. While automated videos are not overly common, but they are important to be aware of, and you must prepare very well for these. This will be very different between company to company depending on the type of process that they use. Quite often, as part of a recruitment process, you may be asked to complete an assessment. Assessments may include ability assessments, such as verbal reasoning and numerical reasoning, or they could be a skill-based assessment, such as potentially for an operator role, you might be asked to complete a dexterity assessment, which measures your hand-eye coordination and your fine motor skills. For example, for a clerical role, you may be asked to complete some Microsoft Office package assessments on Excel, Word, and also typing, for example. Lastly, some top tips around interviewing. Always make sure that you fully understand the type of interview that you are invited to. If you're unsure, contact the main contact for the role in the organisation. You can do this by phoning or emailing that individual. Take the interview seriously, no matter how informal or formal it may be. And with that, make sure that you do put in the preparation time, as this will be very obvious to the interviewer whether you have put in the necessary preparation, and this will reflect on your motivation for the role. And lastly, always keep up a good attitude throughout the interview process and always stay positive. So thank you for listening to this video on the different types of interviews that you may be invited to. The next interview will go through online interviewing. In the meantime, please do contact Samantha and her colleagues for support using the contact details on screen now. Also, do remember to visit the Clare Local Development Company's website on www.cldc.ie for more information on the Social Inclusion and Community Activation Programme. The very best of luck with your interview process.